Today, I'm joined by Associate Professor Danny Sims, and we're going to explore the topic, there must be a better way to gain a qualification. Danny, welcome.
Hey, Campbell, thanks for having me today.
Great to have you. Can we kick off by just sharing a little bit about what you do?
Okay, just briefly, I'm an Associate Professor and Head of Faculty for Business and Leadership Studies, but generally I manage the study support and the progression of all business students within my university.
Fantastic. So the topic, there must be a better way to gain a qualification. Of course, what we're talking about is RPL, or recognition of prior learning. Now, for those that aren't familiar with it, recognition of prior learning is an assessment process, which means that if you already have the skills and knowledge, you don't need to spend time studying things that you already know well. You provide examples of workplace-based evidence, for example. Now, I know that you're very familiar with RPL as well. Danny, tell us, how did you come across RPL?
Yeah, thanks. Prior to my current role as an Associate Professor, I've had a long history working in the VET sector, vocational education and training, your sector, our sector, and working in the competency-based world. And as you know, Campbell, recognition is one of the pathways that the person can use to gain a qualification under the vocational sector. And thankfully, it's also a pathway under the higher education framework that I work with as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And just to clarify for everyone, in the same way that you know that Knowledge Access delivers diploma and advanced diploma of leadership and management, Associate Professor Danny's organizational university delivers higher education, so bachelor's and master's and so on. So RPL, it's not a shortcut. It's not avoiding anything. It's what I would call a speeding up of the assessment process or blended learning. And I always say, well, why bother spending time and money studying things that you already know well? Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I'm really glad you asked this question. I've got to get a little tiny bit sciencey, just a tiny bit, you know me. The World Economic Forum, and they're a big body that drives a lot of my research and a lot of the studies, in their Future of Jobs report tells us that there is going to be a massive shift. It's already underway in jobs and skills. The business and leadership programs that I have written and manage are contemporary, and they take into consideration what the World Economic Forum and many other peak bodies are predicting. Another one, as an example, is the NCVER, the National Council for Vocational Education Research. The nature of the recognition process forces you to review what you've done and to identify any gaps. These gaps, when closed through top-up training and project work, may well prove to be incredibly beneficial in ensuring that the person undertaking recognition is better able to prepare themselves for not just now, but for the future of jobs. So it's not just collating a CV and a couple of emails. There's a lot of research involved in finding what you've got from a recognition perspective, and what it does, it highlights what you can do and what you can do and should be doing to ensure longevity in employment and career opportunities.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And a common feedback that we receive from people that we work with is that it's a very cathartic experience. Everyone learns something. At the very least, they learn, I didn't know I knew all that stuff. And yeah, when I hear things like that, it's fantastic. Interesting about the gaps and coaching or learning to those gaps. Leadership and management comes naturally to very many people. It's not until you look at the evidence requirements that you think, oh, hey, yeah, I never really thought about managing or leading in that way. It's just what came, naturally to me. And that leads me to my next question, which, what are some of the typical questions that people ask you about RPL?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at this. The first question I'm asked a lot, which is the cost. Higher education is expensive, and what we try to do is democratize access to higher education to make it cost effective and time effective for as many people as possible. For a person that does qualify for recognition, and in my case, the cost is far less than for a person having to study for the full duration of a bachelor or a master's degree. It is a significant cost and time saving. Next question, what do I need to provide as evidence? We start with any formal learning, i.e. an advanced diploma from Knowledge Access. That's actually perfect evidence against a bachelor degree in leadership and management. There is a natural alignment and transition from your advanced diplomas and advanced diplomas into the undergraduate bachelors of business, bachelors of leadership and management, etc. Secondly, we look at experience. So it's a recognition of current competence. And I understand now that RCC and RPL is all rolled up into one. We look at their recognition of current competence. If you're a team leader, a supervisor, a manager that has been, say, developing operational plans, recruiting, developing teams, working with balance sheets, the usual daily business activities, but you don't hold a formal qualification, we can use this evidence and these activities as part of the recognition process. And the last main question is, how long? It is a little bit piece of string-ish. It's very much up to the individual. If you have a lot of what we've just mentioned, the time frame is relatively short, a few months, again, depending on whether it's a bachelor or a postgraduate qualification. If you have limited but meaningful evidence, we need to fill the recognition gaps with top-up programs and, of course, a capstone course or a capstone project that demonstrates the holistic understanding of the subject. So from a higher education recognition process, it could be as little as a few months up to maybe 6 months, depending on how much evidence you have and how diligent you are in researching and putting together your capstone project.
Yeah, fantastic. And so in a nutshell, based on what we've just discussed, what is the one thing that you'd recommend to people watching this video today?
I know this is going to sound cliche, but it's really valuable. Pick up a phone or send an email to organisations like yours and mine and others to see if you're eligible for recognition. The recognition process is a great way for you to revisit your working life as you build your evidence portfolio. It allows you to reflect on what you've done and what you've achieved. That's such an important thing for you to think back on what you've done, how you've done it, when you've done it. It certainly doesn't hurt when it comes to performance appraisal, salary revisions, and job interviews to have your contributions fresh in mind.
Fantastic. So if I can summarize a little bit about what we've spoken about today, is that everything that you do in the workplace is evidence. We're very much shared of the vision that education is a lifelong journey. So if you have no formal qualifications, but you are already an experienced leader and manager, the diploma or the advanced diploma is highly likely to be suitable for you in a typical workplace environment. If you've already achieved those, and many of the Knowledge Access alumni who already have an advanced diploma of leadership and management, they'll ask me a couple of years later, well, what's next? What can I do next? And they're thinking that it's more study and they've just got to spend hours study. The reality is that advanced diploma and your workplace-based evidence can speed up the assessment process into one of Danny's programs, like the Bachelor of Leadership and Management, for example. Danny, any closing thoughts?
Look, no, just to say thank you. And I'm really glad that we've had this discussion about recognition. What it's not is an instant way of getting a piece of paper. That's not what it's designed for. It's designed to allow you to gain recognition for the great work that you've done, the study that you've already undertaken if you've done that, to identify what else you might need to do, and to gain an Australian and or internationally recognised qualification can support you in your professional life, your personal life. It's what I really like about it as a closing comment is it allows you to earn and learn. You don't have to give up your job to go and get a degree and a postgrad. You can work and learn and gain a qualification at the same time without it being too onerous. And that's the great thing about the recognition process.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us today, Danny.
Thanks a lot, Campbell.